Okay, so the title of this project is Recovery Modeling for Anthropogenic Impacts on Coral Reefs. And the PI, of course, for this project is Dr. Paul Jokiel, but also involved is Dr. Greg Piniak, who's with the NOAA Centers for Coastal Fisheries and Habitat Research, and he has a lot of extensive background in doing seagrass modeling and also modeling of coral reefs in the Florida Keys. Dr. Eric Brown, who some of you probably know, works for the National Park Service, and he's in charge of doing all the monitoring for the Pacific National Parks. And I'm going to be the one to gather some of the data. Okay, so the scope of our work is to use archived CRAMP photoquadrant images to generate coral demographic data and gather additional size frequency field data to develop Hawaiian coral reef recovery models based on the NOAA Centers for Coastal Fisheries and Habitat Research recovery model that was developed for the Florida Keys. Okay, by demographic data, I mean recruitment, which is the number of new colonies, growth, which is an increase in area, mortality, a decrease in area, fission, where a colony divides into two or more colonies, or fusion, where two or more colonies fuse together. Okay, the rationale for this research really has two perspectives. There's the ecological, where this provides really important information on in situ coral demographics and population dynamics. Okay, but the demographic data may also be useful for climate change models. Okay, and then there's the management perspective, where we really need realistic recovery time models to assess damage claims for reef injuries due to anthropogenic disturbances like sediment spills, dredge and fill operations, or ship groundings, or to assess mitigation costs, benefits, and efforts. Because, you know, once it's damaged, how are you going to repair it? Are you going to leave it alone? Okay. Now, those of you that are familiar with CRAMP, CRAMP has established over the years 32 long-term monitoring sites, which are spotted by green, and 22 rapid assessment sites, as well as doing a number of other additional assessments like at Kauai. For this particular project, I'm going to be using the photo quadrants that were collected at the long-term monitoring sites. But for all of these, there are digital images that maybe could be used later on to supplement the demographic data. Okay, the methods for the demographic data is to take the CRAMP photo quadrant images. Currently, there are over 1,510 images that have been archived. Use a tablet PC and Sigma Scan Pro, which is the software, and basically you trace around the coral colonies and quantify the area of each colony. To give you an idea of what this looks like, okay, this is just one little corner, and these are all different coral colonies, and each one is numbered, so I can track the fate of each coral colony. Okay? After the data is generated, the recruitment, we give that basically to Greg Piniak, Eric Brown, and Paul Jokiel, and they'll be developing their population recovery models. Okay? So to take you through what kind of changes you can see over time at one particular site, this is in 1999. Now, if you watch the general area in the center, you'll see 2000 start to come in. You can see some slight changes taking place. Okay, so this is in 2000. And then in 2001, you can see the compressor here is getting a little larger. The lobata's gotten a little larger, and here's the Montipora. Okay, 2002, looking a little different. 2003, the compressor here has gotten considerably larger. The lobata looks a little different. 2004, and finally in 2005. So we look at these changes and we go, okay, we can see the really dramatic changes that take place, you know, with these types of colonies here. But on the fine scale, what I'm going to ask you to do is watch these three particular areas, and I've traced around this particular colony so you can track what happens to it. Okay, and the next year, we see actually up here, we've got two little coral recruits that have come in, okay? And here, the coral colony that is here, we actually have had a fission event right here, okay? Next year, it used to look like this the previous year, so we do have some growth that's taking place. By 2001, our little coral, our area that had a fission event down here, actually now has a fusion event. Okay, so the coral has fused. Our little recruits, one of them has grown, the other kind of suffered a partial mortality. By 2002, our little coral recruits are gone. We see mortality because our coral colony that was here is no longer there. And our partial fusion, and then we had a fission event, has fused again, and we have a secondary fusion event. So we can track all of these different demographics by looking at the pictures from year to year to year. Okay? As far as the size frequency data, the sites will be selected following initial analyses of the photoquadratic demographic data along with other considerations. The divers will survey selected area in details to obtain population size structures, and then also the existing archived monitoring transect images will be evaluated for additional size frequency data. Okay? Our expected outcomes, one is a greater understanding of in situ coral demographics and population structures for Hawaiian corals from a diverse range of habitats throughout the main Hawaiian Islands, and to develop an extensive database on the recruitment, growth, and mortality rates for the cramp photoquadrats, as well as developing a realistic recovery model to facilitate management decisions and assess damage claims for anthropogenic injuries to coral reefs. So that's it. We haven't started this project, but I hope by the next time I get up here to present that I'll have some interesting data for you. Okay? Any questions?